Alright, let's say you enter a shop to buy some groceries. You're in the shop and suddenly you hear, to the ground, to the ground. You look around and everyone goes to the ground. It's a robber that entered in and he has a gun, a big gun in his hand. The robber didn't see you. Everyone's to the ground. People are terrified for their lives. And the robber tells the one behind the desk, give me the money. And the individual packs all the money and puts it in a bag. But then you arrive with your gun and you fire a warning shot. The robber is terrified, he looks around and he sees you with your gun in your hand. And you don't even say anything and he rushes away from the store. And he never returns back. Now what happened here? That robber calculated in his mind that nobody that visits that store has a gun nor knows how to handle a gun. He knew that if he would come with his bare hands to fight, he would lose probably, because people could use any object and throw it at him. So physically, by his own strength, he couldn't win. He couldn't get all the money. And he wanted the money. So what did he do? He realized he needed some advantage. So he purchased a gun on the black market with bullets. He trained in using the gun and he went to the shop. And he knew he would win, but he didn't count on someone else being armed. Now look, why did I give you this parable? Because I want you to think about something. In the parable I give unto you, the criminal was smart, the criminal was intelligent. The criminal just didn't realize that others with good intentions may have guns also. Now this is not a video about gun control and whether or not people should carry arms. I want to teach you in this video, as I talked before, that the only long-term deterrent against violence is spiritual judgment. That's the only long-term deterrent against violence. Others say you need to cope with violence by being respectful. So if people want something, give to them, then they won't be frustrated, and when they're not frustrated, they can't act out against you. But if you follow this pattern of thinking, that would mean that you would have to give in to almost anyone that becomes frustrated. So then people can use their frustration as a weapon to control you. Others would say you need to learn self-defense, how to knock someone out. That would mean that you have to be alert all the time in case you're attacked, because violence in real life happens suddenly. It seldom happens seldom happens as it does in movies. Others say you just have to run away. But if you do this, you would run away your whole life. So if you live in your house and neighbors begin to act out in frustration against you, then you need to leave your house and become homeless because people have a will? No. What if you have a job? Or what if you're completing your degree at college? Are you going to flee because some people develop wills? No. Look, nobody in the right mind wants escalation of violence, because people may get hurt, people may die, and all of that. Nevertheless, violence happens. Why? Because people have expectations that they don't examine. And because they want to examine those expectations, they want to face the frustration that's caused by them holding on to those expectations. So what do? They seek for an outlet. And that's all violence is. It's the leaking out of negative energy on a target. That's why violent people seldom attack those of the same size as they are. They always go to people who are smaller, or in some case weaker than them. They do. They don't go to anyone bigger than them or of the same size. So maybe sometimes of the same size, but always go someone weaker than them, because it's all about leaking out negative energy. It's all about seeking relief at the expense of the other. That's all violence is. And people that agree with violence, they have forfeited natural reasoning. They have forfeited common sense. All this on their mind is to get their relief. So more gun laws is not going to stop them. More police on the streets won't stop them. Banning guns won't stop it, because then they'll pick up knives or they'll pick up chairs. So what do you do against violence? The only long-term deterrent against violence is spiritual judgment. Let me explain. Let's say you're in a supermarket. Let's say you work in a supermarket. You are filling the cabinets. You are dressing it up for sale. You sell cabinets, and now you need to dress them up so that the customers think it's a threat of cabinets. They will purchase it. There you see someone entering the store, and this individual entered the store. You sense some intense presence with this individual. You didn't know why, but then she leaves the store. Next time you see her, she's in town, and you notice that whenever she arrives at the place, many of the men who are quite perverted, they suddenly walk away. Normally those men would begin to catcall a woman, or they begin to harass a woman, but in her case they just all walk away. And then you also see that some people are looking there very angry, but they just can't come near her with their anger. Now what's going on here? That woman uses paranormal aid. So she uses witchcraft. And how does she use witchcraft? She has a paranormal cover around her energy field. So there are like 4 demonic entities around her that shield her from negative energy coming close to her. And other demons see those 4 entities, so other demons also know, okay, no negative energy over there. So what happens is, she can walk outside at any time, dress however she wants, nobody lays any hands on her. Nobody even comes too close with her with angry thoughts. You know why? Because all negative energy is bounced away from her. She has a paranormal cover. And it's because of this cover that nobody harms her. There are people thinking, who the heck that this woman thinks she is, huh? There are many people that can't stand her. But they never dare to tell her anything to her face, because that negative energy bounces back. And anytime negative energy bounces back, those people experience the same intention, the same intensity they wanted to dump on her. So people become frightened of her and they avoid her. She doesn't know self-defense. She doesn't carry a weapon. She, even though she's kind towards others, she doesn't just give in to people's expectations just so they leave her alone. She uses spiritual judgment as deterrent against violence. It's paranormal, so it will expire, so she needs to keep doing her thing, which exhausts her, but she knows without this paranormal thing, people will go off at her. She may lose her job, people may look for a fight with her, men may assault her. So she knew if she didn't do this paranormal thing at home, in her wardrobe, if she doesn't lit those candles and chant those paranormal hymns and all that, if she doesn't do it, anything bad can happen to her anytime. Now, in this case, this woman is realistic. She knows what human beings are, spirit beings. She knows she's a spirit being, and she knows that the spiritual overrules the physical, because the physical is real, but it's an outworking. So she realizes that to get away from violence, she has to deal with the spiritual root of violence. Now, she thinks that what she's involved in is not witchcraft. She thinks it's just spirituality. She's deceived, but nevertheless, she is practical and it works. Other women are frightened, thinking they need self-defense, or others develop a bitchy attitude to deter people from coming too close to them. She just having a good time at ease, and people don't go against her. But others around her do sense that there is anger against her, but others also realize that this anger can't come close to her. So because others do notice and do sense anger or frustration against her, but that she's completely at ease, others become frightened. Because others begin to think anyone in this world with people angry at them sooner or later would face harmful consequences. Why is this woman walking around freely and people are so angry with her, yet she's completely at ease? This will confuse people, especially people who are not aware of the spiritual. Now look, I've spoken about covers before, and I have to repeat, I do not promote paranormal aid, because you're dealing with unclean spirits who are junkies, who feed off the anxiety of human beings. Natural junkies, I mean human beings who are junkies, you wouldn't trust them. So why would you trust a demonic spirit who is a junkie? You shouldn't. When you walk by faith, you operate in the true cover. And here's one more thing. When you operate in the true cover, you are not aware of it. Others are. I do not sense that much negative energy thrown at me anymore, because I've been walking by faith for quite some time now, and after a while you don't sense the negative energy that's being thrown at you anymore. It's still coming, but you won't sense it, so you'll be at ease. And it's this ease that also will scare off predators, because it confuses them. Because you're either at ease because you're completely safe, or at ease because you have something far bigger to defend yourself with. But because they don't see a gun, they don't see your big body mass, because you're not that muscled, because they don't see anything that can hint that you have something to retaliate, they become frightened and they back off. That's also how the protection works. The reason I'm recording this audio is because some people that come to this channel still believe in self-defense, they believe in respect, they believe in many things as deterrence against violence. Don't get me wrong, of course you treat others in an honorable way. Of course you treat others in a loving manner. But that doesn't mean that you just have to give in to expectations just so that people won't go off at you. And it's not a thing. You should check your own expectations also. The world teaches you many things to cope with violence, where you become violent yourself, whether emotionally, physically, or mentally, or you suck up the violence as a scapegoat. The world teaches you how to cope with violence instead of being delivered from it. And I'm telling you that the only long-term deterrent against violence is spiritual judgment. Look, in the parable I give unto you, you had this young woman who had this paranormal cover, and that's why negative energy remained at a distance. The negative energy was still there, and she could still be affected by it, but it couldn't come close to her. So she wasn't really delivered. She was just relief. She had extended relief. But the relief target is still a target. Now, let's say it was a believer now. And then let's say in this case a male believer. And he would be going all over the place throughout town, and nobody even looks at him too long. What's going on? This believer doesn't have relief from violence, he has overcome violence. So what happens now? When he's at home in the morning, and before he leaves his house, when he makes his declarations, when he returns every arrow of the enemy back to its center, what's going to happen? All the negative intentions meditated against him returns back to those who meditated it. So it can be that there is this, let me say, this employer that refused to have him at the workplace, was now facing stomach pain. or he's now facing chaos in his administration. What's going on? The negative energy bounced back, and now he's experiencing consequences. And now everyone at the workplace realizes, hold on a minute, the boss has a lot of chaos around him. And then we realize, hold on a minute, it's ever since this boss refused that the application of that guy that this is happening. Oh, so the boss may have issues against the guy. And now the boss's consequence. Now everyone at the workplace will now realize that there's something to with you. So anytime they see you in the streets, they think, okay, I'm not going to bother with that guy. So what happens now? There are repercussions, energetic repercussions against violence. In a paranormal, you only have relief from violence, while the violence is still there. In supernatural, there is both. I would say that violence bounces back, so you are freed from it, but there are also repercussions against violence. And that's a difference. When you look at Moses, when you look at Elijah and Elisha, there's other prophets. When you look at the New Testament also, with apostles, there were repercussions against violence. That's why they were able to continue and to keep going. They didn't cope with violence, they overcame violence, they overruled violence. That doesn't mean that violence didn't happen. It doesn't mean that their environment wasn't under attack, but they overruled it. There are people out there, let me tell you, the only reason they're still alive is because there are either people covering them paranormally. They may have a grandma or someone who's into witchcraft that's covering them, or they have people praying for them. And even though they may not even be believers themselves, or they may be believers but not really walk by faith, it still has a beneficial impact on them that violence bounces back from them. That's how you ought to pray when you pray for others, that violence bounces back from them. The negative energy returns back to the senders to send it to them. Look, I've encountered quite some psychic attacks. At the moment the repercussions occur, psychic violence tends to increase because the perpetrators now will lose it. But when they lose it and realize that it's them carrying all the weight and all the garbage, sooner or later it will stop. If you want to live at peace, in real safety, then you need to operate in spiritual judgment. And I prefer saying supernatural judgment because I don't want you involved in paranormal aid. The paranormal aid is the only thing worldly people have if they want to be safe. They can only be relieved, and if the relief can be extended, that's the only thing they have, but it works. Why do you think, for example, that you can enter a neighborhood where most people have racial tendencies? There are almost no foreigners living there, yet you have Chinese folks over there. They have 3 restaurants. And those same people with racial tendencies, they spend money at those restaurants. Well, they can't even stand foreigners. What's going on? Those Chinese folks who are pagan, they have their paranormal covers that they use, and that's why they're successful over there. The moment they won't operate in those paranormal covers anymore, their businesses would lose customers. Rocks are thrown inside their businesses, windows are broken, or some may even commit arson, and they're kicked out of their own homes. But because they operate in a paranormal cover, it doesn't happen. Look, I'm going to say it one more time, then I'm going to close. The only long-term deterrent that's effective against violence is spiritual judgment. Everything else is just coping. And some coping mechanisms are more effective than others, but it's all coping. And all coping eventually destroys you. So, agree with Christ and overrule violence. Be at peace.